GrowCFO is where finance leaders grow together. Join thousands of like-minded professionals using GrowCFO to access the combined knowledge and experience of the finance leader community. You can join us today at growcfo.net.
Hello and welcome to the GrowCFO show. And for the first time in a long time, I've got Susanna Serrano-Davey back with me today. And we're going to talk about confidence.
Hello, Kevin.
Confidence. Susanna, you're telling me it's overrated.
I do. But we'll see whether you agree with me or not, shall we?
Come on then, tell me more.
Well, just to begin with a personal example, because I think it's always a good way to contextualize. You're looking at me here, you know a lot about me, and you know about some of the things I have achieved in my career and life. But if I take you back to a time when I was 15, sitting on my bed, fretting, having decided I had something to tell my parents, I was a different Susanna then. And my mum called up, "It's dinner time." So I went up to dinner and I plucked up the courage to tell my parents that I wanted to give up studying at age 15. So that led to me dropping out of school. And at that time, I felt small. I lacked vision about what I could achieve in my life. And in a nutshell, I lacked confidence. And I think that feeling of lacking confidence is something that has accompanied me through the years. And I think it accompanies us, many of us, through our journey. And if I fast forward 12 years later, after I dropped out of school at age 15, I graduated with a first-class honours degree in England, having just learned the language and having had 2 children during my university years. So my point is that, yes, we may not feel confident all the time. And I think what's important is not looking to be confident all the time, but to deal with those moments when we don't have that confidence.
Susanna, you always strike me as being very confident.
I know. And the interesting thing is that I thought that myself. But then once, quite a few years ago, somebody said to me in the workplace, "What you need to become a CFO," this is before I became a CFO, "is more confident." I was gobsmacked because I thought the same thing as you have just said. I thought I had become confident over the years, but actually I think that little child, that little Susanna, that young Susanna or young Kevin is within us all the time. And sometimes they come out, that little person comes out. And if we don't spot the signs that the person had come out, we can't deal with it. And I think about confidence a bit like smell. If you don't have confidence, somehow there's a whiff in the room, people can tell. And if you're not able to spot it yourself, then how can you do anything about it? But of course you can, over time, build on your confidence. And hopefully that's what we will talk about today.
Susanna, you mentor a lot of people. How often does the confidence topic come up?
All the time. I think that's one of the topics, both men and women, that when we go through, because ultimately, even if we're talking about other topics, whether that might be dealing with a difficult situation at work, or it might be managing your team more effectively, or it could be about how to position yourself at the board, ultimately, there's always a confidence challenge behind that.
You say men and women?
Yes.
It's equal. Is there a gender thing in there?
I think there is definitely a gender thing. And I want all the chaps that are listening to us today to keep listening, because this is important to them, important to everyone, but particularly women, because I was researching, in 2003, well, there's a lot of research out there, surveys, but in the UK, there was a survey published and a study published that showed that girls are more likely than boys to have self-confidence issues. And this is also a trend year on year that girls seem to be getting worse when you look at girls 10 years ago. So this is a problem that is getting worse. And also the European Commission has shared research that shows that women are more likely to suffer from mental health issues associated with lower self-esteem than men. So I think it's a real topic. I don't know if you have felt that young little Susanna once in your life, Kevin. I guess you have as well, as a gentleman.
Yes, I can probably relate to issues like that. Yes.
When I speak to the women that I support in my work, and when I lecture and we're in groups, women are often the ones that are more noticeable in terms of having a confident challenge. I'll give you another example. I remember I wasn't that young by then. I was in my 40s. I remember a meeting that the senior stakeholder that I was talking to at the time was being not awkward, but he was being firm with me. And he just said something along the lines of, yes, but you haven't convinced me. You're not giving me the data to support what you're saying. And all I can do at that time was in my head and thinking, I was feeling rattled. I was feeling red. I was feeling nervous. And all I was saying to myself, Susanna, don't burst out crying. And this is a grown-up woman having a meeting like the many I would have in a normal. So it was nothing unusual. But that day, I had a massive crisis of confidence. I finished the meeting as soon as I could, and I rushed to the bathroom. I freshened up myself and tried to recompose myself. But these are things that happen to people. Certainly, I have suffered from those situations. Recently, I was giving well-intended feedback to somebody, and I inadvertently triggered that response in her. And I could see it. I was looking at her, and she was suddenly very fidgety, couldn't make eye contact anymore. She was biting her lip. And that happens to the best of us. So I think there's a place to acknowledge that this is something natural in life. Even the most confident people can have bouts of lack of confidence at times. And it's our ability to deal with those situations in an effective manner and also to support us in the journey that I think can make the difference into trying the things and achieving in your pursuits, or staying behind the scenes because it's just not brave enough. Because ultimately, I think there's a thing that trumps confidence, and that's bravery. If you're brave enough, you're ready. I haven't been, if you ask me, I don't think I have been a particularly confident woman, but boy, have I been brave. And with that, and my confidence building over the years, I have achieved really interesting things. And I'm proud of myself. And ultimately, I think that's what it's about. It's about having a go at your dreams and failing at times, but not letting those things that trip us in the way stop us.
And I'm minded of Katherine Clark, another member of our mentoring team, always talked about one particular book, and the name of the author is just escaping my mind. Maybe it'll trigger something for you, but it's Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
Exactly. No, I don't know that book. I need to ask Katherine, actually. But I agree. I think there's a lot around breaking our own barriers, because the lack of confidence, like many of the things we slow ourselves down with, is our own making a lot of the time. How we deal with our own inner world, not only with our skills and capabilities that we have.
So how do we get that kind of boost of confidence? We're saying, do it anyway, be brave. But those are nice, easy words, Susanna. How do we actually do it?
Well, I don't think it's a magic. Just for those that want a quick fix, they want to get on with their life, forget it. It doesn't work like that. Like everything in life, we need to be prepared to work at it. I like to coin little phrases and to come up with methods that can be useful or thought-provoking for other people. In this particular topic, I'm thinking at the moment around the idea of spot and stop, because the first thing is spot. What are the symptoms? What are the things we are doing as a consequence of our crisis confidence? And what is that we can do to stop that? And I think if we start, for instance, where do we start? Shall we go through some of the symptoms?
Go through some of the symptoms, yes. So I think we need to understand what these symptoms look like to understand what to do about them.
Yes. So the symptoms, I could tell you about, for instance, I'm mad about language. First of all, observe your language. How often have we qualified opinions? And for instance, I might say to you, Kevin, it's a symptom that I'm undermining myself and I lack a little bit of confidence. They say boycott. I see it all the time when I work with people. We make statements like, oh, I'm rubbish at communicating. I'm terrible at math. I couldn't possibly do that. I hate public speaking. I could go on and on. These are the things we say inadvertently that are almost like a flag, like a traffic light thing. Hello, your language is betraying you. Because when we say these things inadvertently, other people pick up on them. So the message we're sending out is, I'm just not capable, I can't do it. So the language is a big thing, it's a big symptom. The other one is to do with our bodies. in the example that I gave you earlier about this person that unfortunately I think I triggered a little bit of a moment of crisis for her is your body. You can be in a meeting, in a Zoom meeting or in a person meeting, you might be presenting. When we lack confidence, we just curled up. We're like this, we're crossing our hands or we're fidgeting with our things or with a pen going round. So how our body operates and displays itself, I think has something to say about how confident we are. Our voice, when we speak with hesitation, even this volume, all of those things are almost like we're in a shop front. We put our pair of shoes in the window of that shop front, and if our opinions, if our language, our body and our voice are not in tune with the confident outcome is very evident. Things like looking at people in the eye.
Eye contact is a big one.
It's a massive one.
Yes.
One of the typical tips that I might give people when we do the virtual boardroom is popular and fun actually is in the modern day of digital meetings, present yourself in front of that little window. You look at the person, you try and look at the person because eye contact is super important. And of course, then you can go on to things that we are very familiar with, just feeling nervous. We all feel nerves. That's a big sign when we're uncomfortable or when we doubt in excess. When we, for instance, if we're going to send an email and you read it 5 times before sending it. Yeah. When you find that you're in that loop of constant fear and hesitation and doubt, then all of those things put together, I think give you a very good thermometer for measuring where perhaps you might want to do some work with your confidence.
Yes. I'm not quite so sure about recomposing the email. Sometimes I think you can be quite confident, but you can think, hang on a minute, I know what I'm saying here. How's the other person going to receive this? What's their reaction going to be? So actually recomposing and editing the email once or twice probably isn't a sign of a lack of confidence.
I agree. But I think what's important there is, are you doing it out of fear and nervousness and doubt? Or are you doing it in the example that you just gave us?
Yes.
Because you're intelligent and want to look at different angles. I think there is a difference.
There is. Very much there is. Yeah. And I suppose thinking about that online meeting, it's actually one or two things that you do very easily to help yourself in those situations. Think about the position of your camera.
I agree.
Is your camera...
You're not down here.
Yeah, that's right. You need to think about photography tip. Think about the rule of thirds. If you split the screen that your face is appearing on into 3 equal chunks, your eye line shouldn't be in the middle of the screen. It should be on the top third. And
the light,
get the light right. And if you make sure that the other people in the conversation position the window that they're appearing in and get them as near to the camera as possible, then you've got more chance of appearing to look them in the eye.
Yes, I agree. Simple tip. Very important. But to me, language is one of the easiest because everybody can. I will often recommend record yourself, record one of your meetings, an ordinary meeting, and just play it back. And you pick up on lots of things, whether it is undermining language, where you're overly apologetic, or whether another one that comes out quite regularly in the virtual boardroom sessions is the crutches that we use when we speak. Things like, you know what I mean, kind of, sort of, so then, how, all of those things and nothing else than a sign of discomfort that we use.
Yes.
So it's very powerful to record yourself and to just observe that from a neutral space later on and pick up on all these things that you kind of spot and then stop.
One thing actually that podcasting has allowed me to do over the years, and I've just done it, I've put an in, but podcasting generally has stopped those kind of expressions. It makes you speak properly, clearly, and with confidence. There's loads of times that I've turned the microphone on and spoken to a guest about a subject that I have not the slightest clue about, had to ask some intelligent questions and sound confident.
I agree.
AI is very useful these days because at least you can do a bit of research on the topic very quickly.
Yeah. So have you done any research for our topic today?
I had a late thing for our topic today, Susanna, because I knew you'd come on here full of confidence and with a mini scheme of what we're going to talk about, and it'd be very, very easy. I know I don't have to do a huge amount of research.
Because I like to think ahead and again, that's another tip for becoming confident, I think. If you are always unprepared, and I think having said that, it's important to be able to improvise, you don't give yourself the chance to perhaps try. So in certain circumstances, it really helps to step back and say, hang on a minute, what is it that I really want to transmit? What are the key messages? What's really important to me? And therefore, you don't let yourself down when the time comes to do that big presentation or to have that difficult conversation or to deal with whatever it is that your challenge is. And again, that's something that comes out in mentoring a lot. One of the things I always say to people when I mentor, I can't give you anything you don't already have. It doesn't work like that. It's not like a magic wand that can just transfer my power to you. But what I do give them, and it shouldn't be difficult for people to have it, even if they're not part of the mentoring process, is space to think and to reflect and to consider their own situation. And if we now move on to perhaps talking about not just what are the symptoms, but what are the things we can do about those symptoms to improve our confidence. We've talked about all the physical things, so I don't think we need to go onto that again. But the things we can do, as again is very current at the moment, there is a lot of research around it, is work with our brain, is neuroplasticity. We are constantly evolving. And just because we have been stuck in a certain pattern up to a point in our life, like if I go back to that Susanna when she was 15 and she didn't really have that vision or she didn't have that trust, even if you are 50, you can still retrain that. There is hope for all of us out there. And there are practical ways in which we can do that. A lot of people out there talk about positive thinking. Now, it has almost become a dirty topic, like, oh yeah, positive thinking, stop it. But actually, there is a lot of truth, there is a lot of scientific research behind it. And I have personally put it into practice, apart from trying to be quite optimistic. And I am naturally that way. That was one of my gifts in life. Even if you're not a naturally optimistic person, you can work at it. And I often recommend that people have a diary of reflections, like a personal pages diary or notebook that they use to think about. So if you are going through a difficult time, or if you tend to be one of the ones that focuses on the negative. So if I give you an example, I like to say that we have, all of us, moved from 3 different characters. So I'll use myself as an example. We have the little Susanna, which is the one from the bed when she was 15 and many other times in her life. We also have Super Susanna, which is like, Kevin, I'm going to nail it. This podcast is going to be the best one we've ever recorded because I have a ton of things to say and I'm passionate about it. That's super. And then we have the balanced son that might say, this podcast may not be to everyone's liking, but I have some good things that I'm passionate about. I want to share. I have nothing to lose by trying. I'm going to speak to Kevin about it. So those 3 positions that we all pivot between, I think the little one we need to look after and show her that, or show him that it's not always right. There's no point in being in the super one all the time. Who manages that? I think probably if I'm there to be a little bit politically incorrect, Trump probably doesn't have a self-confidence problem. He's always on the super person. But ideally, we want to be in the balance, in the one that is with feet firmly on the ground. And how we acknowledging those 3 positions in ourselves, I think is important as the first step. Recognizing what do we tend to do more often than others, and then moving towards the one that is balanced and it helps you move forward with a solid footing. And a personal diary is very strong. So for instance, if you go into the little Susanna mode, the feeling a lack of confidence, you can perhaps every day at the end of the day ask yourself, what am I really proud of today? What did I do today I'm proud of? And if you ask yourself that question every day for a month, guess what's going to happen? You're going to suddenly pay attention to the good things that you are doing, and you're going to go into the balance. So instead of focusing on, I can't do this, I'm going to really make a mess of it, and nobody's going to want to hear what I have to say, you'll come nearer the balanced you and the solid you that you need really to accompany you on your journey.
And there's an app that I've used a fair bit to do exactly that sort of thing. And I'd recommend it to anybody listening, called 5-Minute Journal. And 5-Minute Journal, it's on your phone. It encourages you to go in the morning, and it starts with a bit of gratitude and things like that. But then in the evening, It asks you to spend 5 minutes reflecting on the day. Oh, what went well? What might I have done different? And it's a really, really good way of getting yourself entirely aligned into a positive rather than negative mindset.
I agree. And these tools are very easy. They're cheap, but no, they're free.
It's free. Yeah.
What you need is just, first of all, to acknowledge that there is something you can do in that area, and then put the attention and your time to work on those aspects. And of course, I don't think it's something that happens overnight, but I have seen tremendous results with myself in my own journey. I'm living proof of that. And the people I work with, I observe incredible changes just by exercising their own mindset.
Another tool that I really like is StrengthsFinder 2.0.
Yes.
Now, you can buy the StrengthsFinder book, get the little code out the book, go online, answer the self-assessment questions, and it throws you back a report. And out of a possible 30-something strengths, it tells you your top 5 and gives you loads of tactics for how to best use your top 5 strengths. Straight away, it's telling you how to play to your strengths, how to play to the things you're good at. And it takes off the table the things that you're weak at. You gave the list of things that you might classically say you're no good at. This plays it exactly the other way. It tells you the things you're really good at.
Yes. And I think now that you mentioned what we're good at and what we're not so good at, that is also, I think, one of the fuels that brings a lack of confidence. When we're constantly comparing ourselves to others.
Yes.
When we're constantly trying to be who we're not. When we're constantly judging every single thing we do, inevitably our confidence is going to suffer because of that. So stopping that behavior and saying, I'm terrible at a lot of things, and I'm very aware of that. And instead of giving myself a hit on the head, oh, Susanna, why can't you be better at this? I accept it. And sometimes I think ultimately, even if we can all work on our confidence, we can all achieve things that we didn't think we could achieve. If we strip all that away, the true potion is really self-acceptance and understanding who you are and loving the wonderful bit that we all have, and learning to live or mitigating the things that perhaps we wish we didn't have, rather than being stubborn in trying to pursue something that just doesn't go with us. I think they say, I'm not sure whether in English, there is a saying around that, but in Spanish, there's one about a giraffe that wants to be a lion. And if you go through life being a giraffe but wants to be a lion, wow, that's it. You might get eaten in the process.
But flip that around as well, Susanna, to say, if you're in a position that you're looking after staff, you're doing appraisals, you're doing personal development plans.
Yes.
Be very, very careful in this area, because I believe that it's very difficult to develop a weakness. It's quite easy to further develop a strength. If somebody is absolutely rubbish at something, you can give them all the training in the world. What's it going to do? They might become mediocre.
They keep flipping, yes.
Yes. If somebody's good at something and you give them a load of development, that's where you establish mastery, which is going to be better for that person's confidence.
Obviously, the latter, absolutely.
And there are going to be some exceptions where certain learnable skills are necessary to do the job. Learnable skills, go do the course, find out about it, and providing you've got the basic aptitude, you can probably develop them. But other deeper things, I think, focus people on what they're good at. Don't highlight their weaknesses.
Yes. But if I think about a lot of the conversations that I've had in the GrowCFO community, and often we deal with or we engage with people who are aspiring CFOs. Quite often they always say, oh, it's the confidence thing. Both men and women, I lack confidence. I'm sure if you spoke to the headhunters, they say, well, it's the confidence that makes all the difference. And I think it's a part around training, as we've talked about, and bringing yourself up to a more realistic, more balanced view of yourself, rather than hiding in the corner and feeling that you're not worthy in some way. But also stop acknowledging that there are many types of CFOs out there, many types of in different organizations, and ultimately there is no such thing as perfect fit. There is no such thing as perfect person. And it's all about doing the best you can with the resources you have and shining in the process, rather than thinking, oh, I can't, because I think it's a belief thing. A lot of people, they can't do it. I could do it. When I met you, I was only starting to think about starting to share my opinions about the workplace. And a couple of years, 3 years later, I published a book, for instance. And if I had listened to the earliest Susanna that didn't think she had anything interesting to say that people might want to hear, I wouldn't have done those things. So I think ultimately is our own private journey of not taking our self-critic too seriously.
Yes.
Having a go anyway, as you mentioned earlier, feel the fear and do it anyway. But then there'll be times that you will fail, and hey ho, it doesn't matter. I have failed a lot of things in my life too. And here I am, still smiling and in one piece.
And Susanna, I've got to ask you, you had that conversation, 15-year-old Susanna, over dinner, I'm dropping out of education. What did parents say?
Oh, I'd ruined everybody's dinner. They were devastated because, of course, what they saw, and I think what we see sometimes when we see people that are showing a lack of confidence, they saw, but she's so clever and she has so much potential. How could she not see that? And that, I think you've just hit, actually, thank you for the question, because I think you've just hit on the thing that what we sometimes see from the inside is not what others see from the outside, and it's not the real potential that we have. No, for my parents, it was a total tragedy. And that was how I felt at the time. And that was my truth at the time. And that shows up for anyone, even if your current truth is that you can't set up that business or you can't apply for that promotion or you're not going to get, that's only your view at that point in time with your confidence mindset. But of course, life is more interesting than that. So if you just hang on in there and keep going, you probably end up in a more interesting place than you thought to begin with.
And if you're waiting for the right time to do something, tell you something, there's never a right time.
Never a right time. Life tends to
always something in the way.
I agree.
Susanna, that has been absolutely fascinating. Thank you for being the guest on this week's GrowCFO show and filling us all with confidence.
Thank you, Kevin. I hope I have succeeded a little bit on my quest to show that confidence is overrated, because you don't need it all the time to do a lot of interesting things. And I will keep talking about this because I think it's a topic worth exploring to provide a little bit of enthusiasm for all this to follow. So just, if anybody's interested, they can just look up my name on Google and there's a ton of all the stuff that I will share and it's already on my website.
Brilliant. Thank you once again.
My pleasure, Kevin.